manufactured, orchestrated invasion?
In my opinion, this is an orchestrated event by the Obama administration to bring down the United States economically and socially and culturally. And the reason I tell you that is this. The Russians have signed an agreement with the Nicaraguans to build a new canal through there. There is no way in heaven's name that a 4, 5, 10-year-old can walk all the way from Honduras, because I've been to Honduras, all the way up through Mexico and then into the United States. Somebody has to be bringing them up here. Now, I would like to remind your listeners that there was such a thing as the bubonic plague started in Asia and it went into Europe and killed over 45 million people, if I remember correctly. And then you had the Spanish flu of 1918, where numerous people were killed. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is there's also Iranians building secret military bases down there. Now, this is not my opinion. There are Iranians very heavily in South America, and they are, in fact, building military bases down there. And my point is, I don't think that the average American can tell an Egyptian from a Brazilian or an Iranian from a Mexican. It is extremely dangerous down there, and I really suspect, in my opinion, that there may be some type of clandestine operation be a plan to bring us down.
I agree. And just, today, there was reports about an Islamic prayer mat found in the Arizona desert. Well,
right.
Anybody with common sense knows that, the whole world knows today that the border is down and anybody can come across. And the U.S. government is literally facilitating it, paying our agents to bring the people across and
exactly.
harassing and intimidating and threatening to arrest American citizens who try to stop it.
Well, it's not. It's only that they are literally taking Border Patrol agents off the border so they can make it more lawless down there. And again, I want to go back to the fact that Iran has had these troops down there that we know of for 5 years. They've been training with the Brazilian military. And that tour ended this past May. So if you take an Iranian down there, I don't think anybody's going to notice the difference from a Mexican from an Iranian. Now, if you talk to people within Homeland Security privately, they will tell you there's a real threat there. And if you remember, back in I think the late 80s, when the former Soviet Union collapsed, there has been alleged that there's up to 80 suitcase or backpack type nuclear bombs missing, and yet our southern border remains totally unprotected. If we can protect everybody else in the world, and I did 4 tours in Iran, in Afghanistan and Iraq. If we can send billions of dollars in troops over there, why can't we protect our border? Doesn't make sense.
15 years ago, I met privately for 2 days with former GRU military spy Stanislav Lunov, colonel in the GRU, and his chief assignment in the 80s and 90s was to find places in America to hide nuclear suitcase bombs. And I asked Colonel Lunov, how did you bring the suitcase nukes into the United States? And he said, we used illegal immigrants to walk them across the border.
Correct.
So if they were doing that 20 years ago, what do you think they're doing today?
Well, Homeland Security will tell you that they have what they call OTMs. That's other than Mexicans. This illegal children, by the way, this is the first wave that actually has been outed into the news media. But they've been having 10,000 per week since the first of the year hitting that border. In these briefings I've seen, I want to go back to 2015, there is a timeline that I have seen. In 2015, you're going to start to see economic woes, international crisis, and blah, 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 blah. The U.S., as I understand it, is to merge into a North American Union no later than 2017, 2020 at the latest. So our national sovereignty is under direct attack here because Mexicans can hold triple citizenship. They can hold a citizenship in Mexico and vote while they're American citizens and vote up here, and then they'll become state citizens.
Are you saying Are you saying they're going to revive this North American Union concept again?
Well, of course. Well, of course they are. Yes, they are. That's never going to go away. As a matter of fact, and again, this is a lot of times just senior commanders and soldiers talking. There's something called CAFTA and then AFTA. Have you heard of those two things?
No, I haven't.
AFTA stands for Central American Free Trade Agreement. AFTA means the Americas. So what you have now is Canada, America, and Mexico involved in NAFTA. With CAFTA, it's going to go all the way down to Panama, and then the final leg will be all the way down to Brazil. We will be under one social form of government and one economic system.
Now,
that's what's about to happen.
George W. Bush tried to do that, and it got stopped. But you're saying it's still underway. They're still negotiating. They're still putting this thing together.
Well, of course they are. Yes, they are. No, it's not going away. It's talked about at very high levels. You know, the American news media has done a marvelous job of demonizing Caucasian Christians. They have literally demonize them to the point that if you talk like this, you're accused of being a sexist, a racist, or something like that, and that is the furthest thing from the truth. They don't want the truth to be heard out here, and we're coming to a point in America where people are going to have to make some decisions, and you mentioned this in your opening statement. They're either going to have to get into the game and quit playing child's game with sports and things like that, and they're going to start having to hold the American politicians' feet to the fire, or else we're going to lose our country by 2017.
All right. Now, I woke up this morning, and the first thing on my mind as I was getting dressed was Dr. Daniel Daves, who lives in Costa Rica. He's originally from Texas. He moved to Costa Rica, but here's the reason he moved to Costa Rica was several years ago. He had a prophetic dream in which he and his son were standing in downtown Dallas, Texas, near Dealey Plaza, and there was a vast crowd of people in the streets. They were looking up at the skyscrapers. Suddenly, the skyscrapers had video screens, and a government official appeared on all of the skyscrapers, and this man made an announcement. He said, number one, the United States of America has ceased to exist. Number two, all property lines have been erased. Number three, the dollar is dead. Now, that dream,
what he's talking.
Well, that dream shook him up so much, he got his family out of the country. Now, I woke up this morning, sir, with that on my mind, and I've not talked to Daniel Daves for probably since last year. And then, in preparing for this interview, I was watching a video of you speaking, and you almost said the exact same things about what's going to happen starting in 2015.
Well, let me go back to that, and then I'm going to talk to you about a road the Chinese have built. But I want to go back to what you just said about the sky. Psychological Operations has new equipment that has just come out in the last couple of years, and they are capable of projecting an image into the sky that will entirely fill the sky with any image that they so want. Secondly, we have new computer chips into psychological warfare sound systems. It cannot control your thinking, but they can disrupt your brain activities, and you can become very nausea and things of that sort. So we are one step away from we can throw the image into the sky now to appear whatever we want. If you're a Buddhist, you can see Buddha. If you're a Catholic, you can see Mary, if you so desire. If you are an evangelical, you can see Jesus. So those things are possible right now. What is not known is that with the new sound equipment that psychological warfare units had, which I commanded, they're able to start scrambling your brain, and they're one step away from being able to send you a thought. Now, that's just very, very close. Now I want to go back to a road that's been built from China, from the southern part of China. I think this is maybe what you're talking about. It is a highway that's been built by the U.S. If I don't have the emphatic amount of money that it cost the American taxpayer, but I believe it's $4 billion to build that because of what we owe China. It starts at the southern end of China, goes down through Pakistan and India, and comes back up through Kazakhstan into Turkey, and it ends at the mouth of the Euphrates River. Now, they do use a lot of existing highways. It's called the Old Kracamora Highway. So if you Google that, it will pop up the Old Kracamora Highway or the Old Silk Highway that used to run back in biblical times. Now, that highway has been rebuilt with U.S. money. That highway has 2 foot of concrete with 3 foot of asphalt on top of it. It is for military and commercial use only. Now, if you stop and think about this, why would you need such a very, very heavy road like that? That has to accommodate some fairly heavy equipment. But that road, if you study eschatology, you know what it's going to be. In my opinion, that's where the King of the East is going to come from, into the Middle of East.
It's an interesting concept. Getting back to the U.S. Is the world going to be divided up into 10 regions?
Yes, it is. There are 2 models on this. I don't have it right here in front of me, and I'm going to go from memory, but the world has been broken down right now into 10 regions. And there's 2 models. I'll give you the first one. The region 1 is the United States. Region 2, I'm going to go from memory now, is Japan, and it goes down through Australia. You got the European Union, the Asia, and some other countries. That's model number 1. The second model that they're toying with is to create 10 unions based upon the European Union. So with us in America, it would be the North American Union. That's region number 1. Then you have the European Union. Then you have the New Zealand-Australia Union, the Japan-Korea Union, the Asian unit, and so forth. So that's the 2 models that they're toying with right now. But they have to crash the economies in each of those countries and globally to bring this about.
Who's going to make the final decision about which model is implemented?
That I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. This is just my thought on this and some other people that I know in different positions. The U.S. wants to use the UN to make the world in our image, and the UN wants to use us to make the world in their image. My feeling is this. There are 5 or 6 countries mentioned in the Bible that never lose their sovereignty. You don't hear about anybody else. So I think that we're going to lose. That's just my thought. I think the U.S. is going to lose in this. I think that the European Union is going to dominate this.
When you were in the military, did you ever see or hear talk of such a plan?
Oh yes. It's openly talked. Well, let me say, it's privately talked about. It's not talked about in front of junior enlisted. It's talked about with commanders and their senior NCOs or flag officers. This is well known. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not something out of the blue to them. Mm-hmm. But they're not going to talk about it because they've got career story about. And even now, I'm retired. I can be called back active duty whenever I want, held accountable for this. But you have to speak the truth because you are going to face your Savior one day, and I'd much rather please Him than man. So that's what I'm looking at right now.
That's right. When do you believe that they're going to attempt to begin implementing this regional plan?
Well, for me and people in my position and my background, I can see it already. It started a long time ago. It started when we entered Bosnia. I was the long story of that. I was in Tuzla, up at M&D North in Bosnia, and we had a general. I'm not going to name his name, but he said that he told us.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. You can visit us on www.therealthingme.webs.com.